As Brent Musburger would say, we're looking live. Welcome in, everyone. Good to see everyone who's in the live chat. Many of the regulars, good to see everyone. We had such a response last night as the phone lines were still jam-packed after 2 hours and 45 minutes that I thought, hey, my schedule is cleared for the evening unexpectedly. So let's dive right back into this. I have all sorts of stuff that has been running through my mind in regards to this college football mess that we're going to call a season in 2020. Welcome to MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. And for anybody that's watching right now with the 19 on the line or the hundreds and thousands that will after the video posts will be watching. If you have yet to come across my YouTube channel, we talk college football, not sometimes, not once in a while, not every day, multiple times a day. The goal is to post one video every day and then respond to breaking news and also to connect with you live with our live call-in shows and also our live streams that are team specific with Florida State featured on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So please join us then. Again, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, and all college football fans, not just Seminole fans, all college football fans are welcome. I had mentioned the other night that I'm excited about a particular content offering that's coming up. And so Steve Dace from Michigan Podcast and I get together from time to time, but we'll be getting together on a weekly basis coming up starting on Tuesday. So we are recording tomorrow our first, what we are going to be calling the 10-minute war. And for some of you, and I'm guessing NCIS Fanatic 21 will be the one to be able to guess why we're calling it the 10-minute war. Look into your college football history. And I have to give Steve credit for that one. He came up with 4 or 5 names. He offered that one up, and I said, that's the one, the 10-minute war. So Steve and I will be getting together every week for the 10-minute war. And you can catch that on the Michigan Podcast channel or right here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. So that will be a good time. All right. I've got tons of stuff on my mind that I've been jotting down here, both for Steve's show, our show tomorrow, the 10-minute war segment, and also to share with you. But let me get to the live chat. And, of course, the call-in number has been supplied by Kyle. Thank you so much, Kyle. Kyle, I would like you to know that you were featured on my Twitter feed today because I took one of your vice presidential nomination posts, and I just am always amused by it. Kyle is nominating me for VP candidacy in 2020. That would be this year. We're coming up. And so I posted that on Twitter. Yes, NCIS Fanatic 21, giving a bit of a hint. I like your approach, NCIS Fanatic 21. I love your approach. You just didn't tell everybody what that refers to. That's a good clue. 1969 to 1978. Anybody else? I see Alabama fans, Michigan fans, Florida State fans, Ohio State fans, Miami fans, and Nebraska fans. In Nate's case, Nate the Great, don't be late. Michigan, Nebraska. That's one of the oddest combinations of fans I've ever seen. But hey, we welcome all fan bases here, of course, and combinations of fan bases. My opinion has always stood as pick a team. Pick a team. You talk to certain people and they name like 3 teams. Who's your NFL team? I like the Cowboys and the Niners and kind of like the Ravens. Okay. All right, Kyle, good to see you. First in line. Kyle asking if everyone got to choose one game. That's it. Which would it be? Okay, one game meaning this season, or maybe one game that we're going to be missing. I'm biased here, or Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon. That would be my game. Outside of that one, I mentioned last night to somebody that I was intrigued, and there's still hope for the ACC non-conference games. Of course, the ACC has yet to decide, but my hope would be to see North Carolina play both Auburn and UCF. I'm intrigued to see what the Tar Heels have this year. Kyle, glad that you're feeling fine. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that you're feeling fine, and our best wishes, thoughts, and prayers do much better good than wishes, but go out to you. Jason is here tonight. We've got Dennis on the line, Miami fan Dennis. Snake Spence, good to see you as well. Buckeyes rep right there. We also have Clemson Kid's on the line. Clemson Kid has been joining us on a regular basis here for several weeks, maybe beyond that. Phil has been an ardent supporter in recent months. I don't know when you started watching, Phil, but thank you so much for the support. Florida State fan, and of course, Seminoles Live is coming up Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time with our boys, Logan Robinson, James Coleman, and Jason Parker. Luke repping the Heels. Yes, Luke, I'm intrigued by UNC more than any team in the country. I am intrigued with North Carolina, Tennessee. Did I say Tennessee? I meant North Carolina. North Carolina first, Tennessee. I want to see if Minnesota is going to repeat what they did last year. Cal's a bit intriguing too. The Golden Bears with Justin Wilcox. There it is. Thank you, Kyle. Yes, I need the big fancy open. So I'm guessing that I'm one of the rare YouTube channels that's pretty much a one-man show. Nobody helping me in the background. Nothing. Got nothing here. So that's why you miss the bells and whistles. The music, the fancy graphics, all of that, because it's just me. And if I'm going to spend all my time doing that, then you're going to get a lot less college football. First call of the night. Is it going to be Navy Thomas? He's done this about, I'm going to guess, 10 consecutive times. It's been Navy Thomas #1. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, how you doing, Marcus? The old pal Marcus Aurelius.
Hey, Marcus. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Had a slow day for the most part. A little concerned about the state of college football at the moment. I think you probably share those concerns.
I do.
And if I'm wrong, feel free to interject.
I will interject with this to start, that until before you continue, that Navy Thomas's streak of being the first caller has been now broken. All right, Marcus, what you got?
Well, if I would have known that, I would have delayed my call because, quite frankly, I respect precedence, like a good American does. I wanted to hear your thoughts about something that you probably haven't been asked about recently, and that being Arkansas football. Quite frankly, I'm under the presumption that Arkansas football needs to do 3 things. The thing alpha: stop firing coaches 2, 3 years or halfway into their contract. You have never been a prestigious program. You've never really accomplished the same things that a lot of programs like Georgia, Florida, Ohio State, Alabama, might I even say LSU. I'm an SEC homer, so I'm very restricted in how I, kind of put these arguments together. But you got to give these guys a chance. When we look at guys like Dabo Swinney went to Clemson in the ACC, and for the first few years, he struggled a little bit. He had winning seasons, just like Jim Harbaugh, but he struggled a little bit. But he broke that barrier and has now turned Clemson football into the ACC football team, right? So there's sort of no competition in the ACC about who's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, because there's only Clemson and there's everybody else. you got to give these guys a chance. In the history of college football, and the history of football in general, high school, college, pro, there's only been a handful of guys who can just show up to a college football program in in the same state that Arkansas is, and turn it around and make it a competitive championship level team. It's just it's rolling the dice at the roulette table. I mean, it really is. Or I guess roulette's a ball game, but you understand what I'm trying to say. You got to give these guys a chance. Second thing, you got to beat your non-conference rivals. And here's where Arkansas football, just like Notre Dame, is going to fall short. They might not play their non-con teams, right? They might have to only play their conference teams. And in such an event, that'll put them at a disadvantage because now, they've got to beat Ole Miss. They got to beat Mississippi State. They got to beat LSU. They got to beat Texas A&M. I don't think Arkansas is capable of doing that. But I do think Arkansas is in a position where, listen, give this guy, Sam Pittman, who's never been an offense or a head coach. He's only been an offense coordinator, only been an offensive line, a coach. He's never really had the experience of being an SEC head football coach. Neither has Jimbo Fisher, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are struggling to make a name for themselves, but you got to give the guy time. You got to understand the fact that, look, you're not the Gators. You're not Georgia. You're not Bama. You're not Ohio State. You're not even Oregon. So give these poor bastards at least a couple of years to put something together. Do you understand what I'm trying to say a little bit?
I do. You ready for my take on Arkansas football?
I am.
We posted a video a few weeks ago on Arkansas looking at offense, defense, and special teams and expectations and what Sam Pittman most likely will bring to the program. So you brought up some history and gave some historical perspective. People might be surprised that have only been watching college football for 5 or 10 years, and you matched up Arkansas versus some of their SEC Western Division opponents. Take the greatness and the status of an LSU, for example, that from the time I started watching football, college football in the late 70s, and even prior to that, from the late 70s up until the early 2000s, Arkansas was a better football program than LSU. Almost consistently. Not every single year, but it's pretty easy to argue. It's a winning argument to take Arkansas over LSU up until the time Nick Saban took over at LSU.
Yeah.
As recent as Bobby Petrino's 2 consecutive top 10 finishes in 2009 and 10 or 10 and 11.
Yeah, it was 10 and 11.
As recent as that. 10 years ago, they won a Cotton Bowl. They played in a Sugar Bowl. They finished in the top 10 in the nation. They were 11-2 2 consecutive years. 11-2, 10-3. Finished 5th in the country one of those 2 seasons. So it can be done. It's difficult because I think when you compare Arkansas to a number of the teams that you mentioned inside the SEC, the big disadvantage they have is in-state recruiting. The high school football talent in the state of Arkansas does not compare to Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and certainly Texas. So they play from behind there.
I don't disagree with that. But the only problem I see with that is that Arkansas high school football recruiting is equivalent to Tennessee in-state recruiting, to Kentucky in-state recruiting, and might I say, and you might call me crazy, it wouldn't be the first time, this is Marcus Aurelius, everybody on YouTube thinks I'm crazy, Alabama in-state recruiting is nowhere near Florida, Georgia, even South Carolina. So the idea that Arkansas is at a disadvantage because they don't have the in-state recruiting that these other teams have is really not a primary argument in the fact that Arkansas can't compete in the SEC. I mean, where was Darren McFadden from?
I don't remember where Derek McFadden was from.
Exactly. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that recruiting in Arkansas is not the reason why Arkansas football sucks. And I mean, between you and I, Mark, and this might sound quite offensive, and I'm getting kind of loud. The neighbors are getting mad at me, and my roommate's getting mad at me. But I've seen boot programs recruit terrible rosters and do great things. And my concern right now in the SEC is that you have teams like Alabama, like Georgia, like South Carolina, and even Tennessee, who recruit out of the same depots. They all come to one primary location for their best recruits. And people say I'm crazy, and I am crazy, and I've got problems. They all come to South Florida. Why can't Arkansas come to South Florida? Why can't Arkansas beat their non-cons and beat Ole Miss or beat Mississippi State or beat Texas A&M and pick up the same guys that those teams are able to recruit? I think they're able to do so. I don't think Arkansas really should be in the SEC. I don't really consider them a Southeastern team the same way I don't consider Missouri or Kentucky a Southeastern team. But I digress on that because I think it's more political than it is football. But nonetheless, I don't understand the argument that these big programs out-recruit these smaller programs, or so these, I shouldn't say shittier, but these lesser programs. I don't think that's an argument. Florida gets out-recruited all the time. And we're right here in the state of Florida where everybody comes down to get our players. They come down here and they say, listen, man, you can play for the University of Florida Gators. You can come up here and play for Alabama. Some boy from Florida who's a hardcore Floridian, you think he makes the decision to go to Alabama because he loves Alabama football? Of course not. He goes to Alabama because he knows that Nick Saban is the guy to take him to the national championship. He goes to Clemson because he knows that Dabo Swinney is the guy to take him to the national championship. He's not going to these schools because he has pride in his in-state school. He's going to these schools because he knows it's the best opportunity. So why can't Arkansas, why can't Ole Miss, why can't even Vanderbilt or Tennessee make that compelling argument to these guys? I've got 2% left on my phone, Mark. I know I sound retarded. It's just my natural state of being. I love you. God bless you. And take her easy, buddy.
Marcus, thank you so much for the call. I think it's a good call, and it's an interesting program to look at, Arkansas. I think there are some legitimate disadvantages there at Arkansas, and you could call them excuses. But let's also understand that as recent as 2016, that Brett Bielema had the Arkansas program on an upward trajectory. Bobby Petrino laid the Arkansas program to waste based on his off-the-field conduct. Did a great job on the field, produced 2 top 10 teams at Arkansas. Then they were laid to waste because of his off-the-field escapades. Then Brett Bielema comes in after John L. Smith, who was a disaster. John L. Smith is a joke as a head coach of the major football program. Bielema comes in and only wins 3 games his first year because he was completely transforming the team and the culture, the environment, and he had steady progress. Go look at Brett Bielema's finishes in the SEC and winning bowl games and the steps that he was taking. That started with actually back-to-back shutout wins over Ole Miss and LSU. And then he just had a dismal stretch drive one particular year where they blew 2 double-digit leads to Missouri in the final game of the season and then to Virginia Tech in the Belk Bowl. And then it kind of all came crashing down the next season. I would have retained Bielema for one more year. I would have given him as a proven head coach at a big-time school that went to 3 consecutive Rose Bowls. I would have given him one more opportunity to right the ship myself. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark Rogers, it's Ballard. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Ballard. I'm good. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just being like all of us other college football fans, wondering if we're going to get a season or not. I know we keep hearing stuff about conference-only schedules, and I get how important it is to play conference games, but I still don't understand exactly what the whole deal is with, because of the virus, we need to play like 12, a 12-week season and 12 conference opponents, or, I don't really see the whole deal behind the conference-only matchups outside of, it's important for the conference championships. Could you help me out with this? Because I really don't understand what difference it makes whether we play non-con or, in conference.
It's all about control. It's all about control.
Right.
Anytime you have a crisis situation, anytime you have a crisis, anytime you're trying to determine something that's important, the more factors that you can control, it's like budgeting. If you can control your budget by determining what you can determine as fixed costs versus some costs are a wild card as to what they're going to cost, then you can control the situation. So the situation here is that, like you, I had the same initial thought. I was sitting here recording with somebody, and I started to get text messages that the Big Ten had canceled the non-conference games. I immediately went live, so I didn't have time to think about it. Why was this move made? Anything like that. So my initial thought was similar to yours, in that if we're looking at one of the first components that come to mind when we think of player safety during this situation is travel and proximity. And I thought, okay, Iowa plays Iowa State out of conference. That's by far the closest game in terms of location that they have to play. Why would they cancel that game? It's their closest game. And if you went through, as you well know, every major college football team in the country in the Power Five and went through their non-conference games, aside from those big cross-sectional games that have been scheduled, USC, Notre Dame, of course, Alabama, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, those kind of games, there's just a couple handfuls of those games. Most are regional or close proximity games. Teams from the Big Ten play teams from the MAC. Teams from the SEC play Southern teams in the group of five, the UABs and the Southern Misses of the world.
Right. It's I was trying to say it's all based on location, basically, right?
Yeah. So the first thought is similar to what you're saying. It doesn't seem to make sense to cancel those games. But what it comes down to is a conference can control its schools, and it can set forth an approach, a strategy, and guidelines that everyone will fall in line with. They can travel everyone the same way. They can test everybody the same way. They can house everyone the same way, and they have control over it. A team from the SEC, Alabama, let's say, for example, has no idea what USC is going to do out of the Pac-12 or what the other opponents on their schedule are going to do out of various conferences. But the SEC can get together and say, all SEC schools are going to do A, B, and C, D, E, and F, and these are the rules to ensure safety and health. So that's why that decision was made.
Right. And like you said, I kind of was thinking as you were saying all that, it's easy to control if it's, all conference or whatever. Take the commissioners of the conference, right? Now, I know we got guys like Bill Hancock, who's he's really just in charge of the playoff and everything. He can't really, it's not much up to him what the conferences can do. For example, take Commissioner Sankey with the SEC. It's easier if you just put it in his hands what he wants to do with his conference and the SEC. It's easier for I'm trying to think of the other conference commissioner names, but take the Big Ten. It's easier for that commissioner to go along and just control those teams. To see what they want to do. Kevin Warren is the Big Ten commissioner, I believe.
Yes.
But it's easier for the commissioners to control, the teams they are in charge of, because, Sankey can't control the Pac-12 or the ACC, or those commissioners got to do it on their own. And college football, the NCAA and guys like Mark Emmert, I think isn't he like the NCAA commissioner or whatever his name is?
Mark Emmert.
He's just sitting there and saying, it's up to you guys. I'm not going to make a call on everything, I don't think. I would assume that's probably how he is right now, but you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yes. So that's, you answered your question, or you repeated what I said after I answered your question, one or the other.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm not saying it's a good answer, but I'm saying that's what the answer is.
Yeah. So we just got to, I guess, sit back and, just see what happens. I mean, it looks like it's at least going to be conference only. And I think we can all agree as football fans, even yourself, really don't care how they do it. I think we're all just hoping for some football, no matter how they play it, no matter when they play it.
Sure. Some football is better than no football. Some football is better than no football. But I would like to see the non-conference games, because I made the comment last night that it does take a lot of the excitement and unpredictability out of the season when there are just conference games, because we're going to see matchups that we see every year. Those are all the games we're going to see. We see these teams play every year. I know that there are wild card games like Alabama, Georgia. They only play every 6 years, but everybody's playing within their conferences. If that decision by the Big 12, the SEC, and ACC lines up with the other two conferences, and that makes it a bit boring, in my estimation. Yeah.
And you were saying the other day, you made a video, and I liked it when you said, now is your chance, Notre Dame, to join a conference or whatever, and I would fully agree. I mean, I still don't understand. I mean, is it that hard, first off, for them to join a conference? I get that they don't want to put up with the conference championship and all that, but if they wanted to or whatever, to go to the ACC or whatever, what's that process look like? Is it, you fit in, or is it,
So the process, Ballard, is not difficult, because the process has already been established. So Notre Dame has already joined the ACC in 12 or 14 other sports. So they're already a full-fledged member of the ACC in everything else. So they've already signed all the contracts, and they're already ingrained in the ACC otherwise. So the ACC, this is not an ACC, well, it is an ACC problem, but I'll get to that in a second. It's not an ACC problem in regards to who wants the relationship. The ACC wants Notre Dame. Notre Dame does not want the ACC in football.
Right.
But as you mentioned, the video, I outlined that with all the negative that has come from this pandemic, this is the one positive for the ACC that could result, is that if the ACC commissioner had, he would stand up to Notre Dame and say, if you want to play football in 2020, you are joining our conference.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Well, do what?
That's what I would do. That would be my move. I would be contacting Notre Dame to say, we hold your 2020 season in our hands, because otherwise you don't have a season. You've had 3 games already canceled against USC, Stanford, and Wisconsin. So you only have a 9-game season, and we have 6 of those. So you can either play with us, or you're not going to play in 2020. And that's fine. If you're turning us down, you'll not play this year, and you'll forfeit. I saw the figure at Iowa State for fall sports would be $40 million. So for Notre Dame football, it has to be much more than that, that they will be losing this year if they don't play football. And I, as the ACC commissioner, would say, that's fine. I'm giving you the offer, giving you the opportunity to be a full-fledged football member of the conference, and you can start playing for the championship this year. If you say no, that's fine. You'll sit out this year and not play any football, and then we'll pick up with our contract in 2021.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Well, anyway, I'm going to let you go. I'm sure other people want to try to get on, but I appreciate you taking my call.
Of course, Ballard. Thanks for calling, man. You have a good night.
Yeah.
Oh, I just missed some people. So I apologize, everyone, because my phone system is not what it should be. I acknowledge that, tell you that all the time. That was going to be my big off-season upgrade, but it just hasn't happened. Now, at the same time, all this stuff was purchased, but yeah. Here we go.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? It's Hurricane Logan, your favorite.
There he is. Hey, Hurricane. How are you?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm good. Just tuning into the show. I don't want to really be repetitive with the same stuff, so I don't really know what to talk about. But I am just hoping there's a college football season. I really don't know what it's going to turn into, but I just hope there's a season, man. I really do.
I hear you. We're all hoping for the same thing. Yeah, I got a lot to say. I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of material. I got a lot to talk about if nobody calls in. But I've got a lot of thoughts about this going forward. So not that what I have to say will change anything. Certainly, other people have the call on the way this is all going to play out. But we've got about 7 to 8 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a question for you. You're a Buckeye fan, right?
Yes.
How are you guys looking on like the off season and stuff like that for going into next season? How are you guys looking? Because I have no idea.
Well, Ohio State's stacked. Now they do lose a lot of talent. They lost. You got to consider that 2 of the top 3 picks in the NFL draft were Ohio State players. So they lost arguably the best cornerback in the nation and the best running back in the nation. So running back's probably the shakiest position. They've got a lot of depth, but no real superstar most likely. They lost 2 really good wide receivers, but they're pretty well set there. The offensive line's loaded. They've got one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the country. They lost arguably the best pass rusher in the country, Chase Young, the number 2 pick in the draft. The linebackers are good, but not elite. And the secondary is always stacked, but it's a bit thin. But they had a great decision made by their best cornerback returning because he could have been a top 10, 15, or 20 pick in the NFL draft, and he's coming back, Sean Wade. So they're stacked. They have their concerns, but and they've got right now the number 1 recruiting class in 2021, and they had whatever it was, number 2 or number 3 in 2020.
All righty, cool. How about you guys as quarterback? Like I said, I have no idea about Ohio State. I know I don't like them, but I respect them at least, you know. But
So you're asking about Ohio State's quarterback?
yeah, the quarterback play. How's you guys' quarterback play looking for this season, if there is a season?
Well, like I just said, he's one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the country.
Okay.
He threw 41 touchdowns last year with 3 interceptions. He ran for, even with a banged up knee, the final 4 or 5 games of the season, ran for like 12 or 13 touchdowns. He accounted for like 54 touchdowns and threw 3 picks. He's a great quarterback. He's going to be a top 5 to 10 selection in the NFL draft. He's a great player. He was the number 1. He and Trevor Lawrence, depending on your recruiting service, were the 2 best quarterbacks in the nation when they came out of high school. And here we are 3 years later, and they're the 2 best quarterbacks in the nation.
I like it. Well, I know it's always a debate with me, so I will drop my mic and hang up very quickly. One thing I want to say, my Miami Hurricanes are going to lose 2 games this season, if that, and the 2 games is going to be the ACC Championship and a big-time bowl game. Those are going to be our 2 losses if we get to that scenario.
Whoa. So you're going to win all your regular season games?
We'll end it on that. I'm sorry?
You're going to win all of your regular season games.
I feel like we're going to have all of our regular season games, and I think our biggest scares or close games will be Florida State and North Carolina.
Sure. But you just told me that you're losing 2 games, and those are going to be the ACC championship game and a major bowl game.
If we make it to that state, yes. It'd be a bowl game loss and a ACC championship loss. Absolutely.
That means that you would be undefeated in the regular season.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we can absolutely pull off a regular season, undefeated season with our quarterback that we have coming in and a new spread offense that we've been waiting to see at Miami for 15 years. Yeah, I do think that can happen.
Oh, it could happen.
I think it can happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but I'm very confident for once. Because I've never been confident in the past with Mark Riggs and Al Golden, and Jan Enos. I've never been confident on those guys, but I think we have guys proven statistically that came into staff, player, and coach that can make a big difference.
Good stuff. Thanks, Hurricane Logan.
And it's not like our schedule's hard.
No, it's not hard.
Yep,
not hard. And you lost a decent team with Michigan State. Bacon 11120. Thank you for loving the show. We appreciate it. Please like the show. I know that you love it, but also like it. And we will talk about Scott Frost momentarily. I should never prepare for these things. I actually sat here for like 15 minutes and wrote down some things I wanted to talk about, but you guys keep calling. So I just talk to you and answer your questions, and we talk college football, and I don't have to go to any of this pre-prepared stuff. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, DeAndre, Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm good, DeAndre. What's going on, man?
You got 3 quick questions.
Sure.
One, with your audio connections, are you hearing that the ACC and the SEC might do some type of partnership for this season where they just play each other?
Yes. So
Because
we talked about that Saturday morning when we had Cam Underwood on. That's been because obviously you've already got the rivalries in place, the 4 or 5 that go on, and then you could kind of fill it out from there.
Right. Because that's what I heard this morning on one of the shows.
Yep.
Second question: what do you think about Daniels being able to play at Georgia this year?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. JT Daniels at Georgia, so that provides a lot of insurance for them with injuries always a factor in football, and then we've got this virus situation this year where Georgia could be in great shape if players go down, and Jamie Newman in particular. I would still think, and I had this conversation with our Georgia guy from 247 Sports. I asked him if he thought there was going to be a quarterback battle if JT Daniels was eligible, and he didn't think so. I don't think Jamie Newman's that great. I know that there is no spring football, but you got 2 guys that are, even though Jamie Newman's been in the program, they haven't been able to participate or have spring practice. So it's not like he really has that much of an advantage as he typically would. We basically have fall practice starting, and both of them are pretty much brand new, even though Jamie Newman's gotten, again, some coaching and a playbook and all that he's been able to fall back on during all this time. So I would, if I'm Kirby Smart, I've got an open competition. I'm not that sold on Jamie Newman based on what he did at Wake Forest. I'd have an open competition myself.
He only has, it's not one of those places where they get a lot of great talent. They got to develop people, but, I know Surratt was really good. Him and his brother are both amazing. Amazing that his brother moved from quarterback to linebacker and started at linebacker, and he was a monster. ACC, September 19th, I did a video on this.
Okay.
Who do you think Clemson's going to pick up? Who do you think the ACC prefers Clemson to play September 19th? Carolina, Virginia Tech, or Miami? Because the reason why I bring that up, if you go look at the schedule, all of them had non-conference games that weekend, and they were against lower teams.
Yeah.
So with that game not being played, who do you think the ACC prefers to have that weekend?
That's an interesting question because that ties into something I was going to talk about, and that's what any of these conferences would do in filling out the rest of a conference schedule. So the ACC plays 8 games, and if they want to go, let's say they do cancel the non-conference, but they want to play 10 games. So they are going to add 2 games across the board. What is any conference's strategy going to be? Well, came up with 3 possible objectives here. Depending on the conference, how they're going to approach this. Number 1, they either say, we're all about player safety and keeping guys healthy. Therefore, we're going to be scheduling the safest and the least travel possible. That could be one approach to it.
Okay.
The second approach could be, what's going to make us the most money? What are going to be the most attractive matchups? So obviously, they're not going to kick Wake Forest and Syracuse and Pitt to Clemson and Miami and Florida State. They want those teams to play. So they're going to make it, they're going to schedule to bring in more money through television and make more attractive matchups and bring more attention to the conference by having Miami and Florida State, North Carolina and Clemson play each other. That could be the second way. Or the third could be some type of anticipation of what, if nobody's playing non-conference games, then what is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee going to do? What is going to be their criteria? Is our goal just to make the college football playoff? So we want to keep a team undefeated. Therefore, the 2 additional games that Clemson's going to play, we're going to give them Duke and another game against NC State, for example, because we want to keep somebody undefeated so we can make the playoff. Those are the 3 ways that I think any conference could go in their strategy in all of this.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they would do. Like, if the ACC is considered to be the weakest conference, what would they do? If, like, I think I brought this up, Oregon, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson, and who's going to be? I should have been 10 teams, but of all 5, they got 5 undefeated from major conference undefeated. What would they do? Because the schedule couldn't play a big factor. But the only thing I could see is what's that called? Clemson beating Notre Dame might be a better. But then Notre Dame playing the ACC schedule, and so it's kind of hard. I really don't think there should be a championship game. I hate to say that. These college, what's called, unless you're going to do all 6 conferences or 5, or you have to add a 16. That's the only way I think it would be fair if you did 6 instead of 5 this year. But I know that's not going to happen. So, but it's wishful thinking. So I just want to get your take on those 3 things. Hopefully, me and Bobby and Chris can get up with you again just sometime in the near future.
Absolutely. I'm here, man. I'm always here ready to talk.
Yeah, trust me. Hey, look, trust me. Anytime you need some content, Mike can't always say the quick words. You have to get me straight. I have a lot of items that I would love to pick up for you to talk about. Just like we talked about Florida State, Clemson's NFL pedigree.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
well,
you got ideas for me. Well, I love your ideas, DeAndre. So anytime you want to throw me a series, I got a bit of an idea last night when I was served up by Hurricane Logan the Georgia-Miami comparison. I thought, why don't I throw it out that people throw me 2 teams, 2 programs, and I compare the programs. That will be the series. Compare the programs.
Oh, man. And the best one that you should do, I mean, everybody would love to see it, is Southern Cal and Miami.
Southern Cal and Miami.
For the last,
well, all time, that's a route.
Yeah, but I thought about what I say that, I mean, you got to use modern times. I mean, Southern Cal is a monster. I mean, just like UCLA is a monster, but, you know, you got to go in basketball back in the day. You got to go with that in a modern time period. I don't think it's fair to go back all the way out there to 1956 or the late 60s when, you know, when everybody wasn't playing the same team. Or Southern Cal and Alabama, if you want something close, like the NFL talent and championship. I mean, if it was not for USC, Alabama probably wouldn't have integrated. Sam Cunningham ran all the way through and Bill Bryant, and they played like, hey man, the London was like, hey man, you need to get up one of them boys back there and make us look bad. Then all of a sudden, what's the guy that's the famous tight end that played for Alabama? Ozzie Newton showed up on campus the next year, and the rest is history. So that'd be a perfect comparison between those two programs.
All right, DeAndre.
All right, man.
I appreciate it. You have a good one.
All right.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Wow. You know what? If I set this up, hey, it's George.
Hey, George.
I was going to say, if I do this, I'm going to do this. I can talk to you, and if I turn my phone sideways, I can look at the chat while I'm talking to you.
Amazing.
I think. Okay. Anyway, I just want to scream coronavirus 10 times into the phone, okay? Get my fucking coronavirus sticks on.
I know you've got a lot to say about our coronavirus situation.
My corona. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, it's my Sharona. Never mind.
You could be the Weird Al Yankovic of coronavirus songs and do the little
Yeah, me and my son's here. He's like 22 or something. But we're watching the news earlier, and it goes, what is the connection between living in a rural Oregon community and coronavirus? And the show comes on, and it says 400 people have tested positive, and there have been 3 deaths. And we look at each other. Are you telling me that 3 people weren't going to die in that amount of time? 8,000 people die every day in America. The numbers haven't changed. It's just if you do happen to go through a windshield and hit a tree now, you're a coronavirus death. And the CDC, if you go to the CDC website, or if you look at Dr. Anthony Fauci, they've all said face masks don't work, right? So we're obviously in some kind of a psychotic simulation for retardation or something. Everyone's wearing a mask that don't work. It definitely makes you breathe your own shit again, and that's not healthy. The first thing God ever did in his whole fucking life was breathe the breath of life into man. And we all said, we don't want your stinking breath. I like breathing my own breath.
A person exhales a gallon or more of exudate out of their mouth every day. Filthy, nasty shit coming out of your mouth. You only defecate a couple ounces, and you only urinate maybe a quart or something, and then you sweat maybe a quart. It's how it works.
Right. And inside the mask is hot and sweaty. If there's anywhere anything's going to breathe, it's there. And no one throws their mask away like they should. You know what?
Put them in their pocket.
Listen, you know what? Let's do a team comparison between Florida and anybody. No, we're going to stop. We're stopping this shit right now. I'm not going any further. Let's talk about Florida versus, how about this? Florida versus LSU, a worthy opponent. They played us enough times now. Those are some bad son of bitches. If they beat us by 1 point in the comparison, I forgive them. I love playing LSU. I love having a serious team on the schedule. And I don't give Georgia that credit because they beat us and they go lose to South Carolina. That doesn't garner a lot of respect. If they'd ever won the national title when they beat us in the last 40 years, I would have respect for Georgia too. There's no excuse for it. You don't lose to South Carolina when you have 25 5-stars.
George, you relinquish the right to talk trash on Georgia when you don't beat them, regardless of what they do otherwise, especially when they beat you, plus they go to the conference championship game.
We beat each other 3 years in a row. The last 15 years in a row, we all won 3-3, 3-3-3. Georgia hasn't accomplished anything. They've not got one step ahead. They still have nothing to show for anything.
What do you
That's
consider
just
an
Georgia.
accomplishment? Winning the SEC is not an accomplishment?
I don't care if Georgia beats us on a year we go 4-7. I don't care. Didn't hurt my feelings. And they're all like, "Hey, we won the national title," but you didn't.
I think it's a losing argument,
They
George.
beat us. They beat us when we won 10 or 11 games.
Argument. They're winning division titles, going to conference championship games, and beating you head to head. How do you have any right to talk about anything just because they lost one game to South Carolina?
Hey, there comes a certain point in time when you have to actually win the national title. You just do. You have to be on that list.
You haven't won a national title for 12 years.
It doesn't matter. We could win it next year, and we're back, just like LSU. Who gave LSU the national title last year going into the season? Nobody. So, Florida could win this year. Anybody could win this year if you have, in those top. There's like 12 teams that legitimately, if they play over their head, could win. Or at least, somewhere around that. If you're counting the number of 5-stars and 4-stars, there's a ratio there. There's enough teams.
At what point are you grandfathering in Florida being relevant because they won a national championship in 2008, but Georgia not? Like, where's the dividing line?
Georgia won in 1980. Georgia won in 1980.
Okay. So what's that magical year? Where's the magical year that it suddenly doesn't count and it does count? I always love this question when people bring up national championships and they say, our national championship counts, their national championship doesn't count because it was too long ago. Okay, where's that magical year?
It's not like that at all.
Where is it? 2000?
It's not like that at all.
Is it 1996?
I give them the credit. I love them for winning the national title. Herschel Walker is my hero, but I don't forgive them for never winning it again. They should have won at least a couple more since then under Mark Richt and Kirby Smart. And that's the difference. That's the problem I have with Georgia is the same angst that Uncle Lou has. That's like fan abuse, what they've done. There's no excuse they didn't finish it off. They had the teams. They had the players. I don't know. Why did they lose to South Carolina? I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, that's a bad a game on the schedule, but it did not prevent them. That wasn't the game that prevented them from winning a national championship. They still went to the SEC title game. They could have beaten LSU. They would have been in the playoff. They could have won a national championship. That South Carolina game really did not hurt them.
I'm not even a Georgia fan. You don't do what Kirby does. You don't have 23 or 27 5-stars on your team and go lose to South Carolina and bring me that hokey dokey shit. Whatever he said. Oh, I don't know. Like, give me a break. If Urban Meyer took the Georgia job tomorrow, he'd probably run off 5 national championships in a row. They're a Humpty Dumpty team with a Humpty Dumpty coach. I don't know why they keep doing this. From Mark Richt to Kirby Smart.
By the way, George, UNC did not beat Houston for the college basketball national championship. That was North Carolina State.
Oh, good one. Thank you for fixing that. That's what I meant.
There you go.
Thank you. You got to give the Wolfpack their credit. It might have been rigged or something. I don't know, but I watched the game. Talk about something ripping your heart out of your chest. I lived in Houston then.
All right, George, I got some other calls coming in.
All right.
Brush up on your Florida argument against Georgia. Must have missed those calls. Yeah, I just don't think as a college football fan that you have much room. Anybody can trash talk against anybody. Rutgers fans, if you want to trash talk Ohio State fans, or if Georgia Tech fans want to trash talk Clemson fans, have at it. It's a free country. You can do whatever you want. So I'm fine with that personally. I don't care. But if we're talking about legit we're talking about legitimately having an argument against another fan base or another team. Well, if they beat you, it's now been at least 3 consecutive years, and they're winning division championships and going to conference championship games, and you're not, well, you really don't have an argument against them. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Sooner Thrawn, man.
Hey, man. How's it going?
How are you?
I'm good.
Why is I've got a few things, but why is it your show, everybody bashes Georgia? I've never seen, they're like a top 5 program, and everybody bashes them, even the programs that don't beat them.
Yeah, if you heard our last caller, he's a Florida fan. Bashing Georgia.
Yeah, I can tell. No, but it's not just that. I mean, Georgia, I just noticed that since I've been listening to your show, it seems like Smart and George, they get bashed more than anybody. And granted, they haven't quite got past Bama. I mean, they got screwed in the championship game, but overall, they're like the top 5. I mean, it's like, I go for my Sooners. Yeah, we haven't quite got there, but we win most of the time. I don't really get it. I don't know why they bash them.
Yeah, I don't understand it necessarily myself. Maybe it's just people that are jealous, and that's the one program that they've got an angle on because they haven't closed the deal and won a national championship in a long time.
But for speaking of Georgia, this is just a process that I would like to get your thoughts on. Daniels was declared eligible.
Yes.
I feel the transfer program, the portal, I think is a good thing, but the transfer process to me is ridiculous. Some guys get to go immediately. Other guys sit out a year. They need to make that more standard. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. So we used to have situations in which the rule that you had to sit out when you transferred, that almost held true across the board. And then once the rule was broken and somebody was able to gain that waiver, then I think between the business of college football and the society we live in, which basically wants to promote everybody has an excuse for everything and everybody can make a claim and we just want to be able to accept any excuse, then really it's become a joke that anyone can transfer and make up any kind of excuse as to the hardship that they endured, that they can transfer and be automatically eligible to play.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's, the assistant coach that recruited me and I don't want to play for the new guy. So, but then it just bugs me because there's been a few guys last few years that transferred to get closer to family members that were ill.
Sure,
those
so
guys didn't get that. I don't know
that
what
they
else
didn't. Yeah. So I don't have a complete issue. I don't want to talk bad about every transfer situation. I don't have an issue with students and student athletes. The student athlete, it's different because they've signed a scholarship and we can't create a situation where it's like NFL free agency where guys can just go wherever they want and it would just be bedlam. But I don't have an issue with if there's a coaching change, that being an automatic requirement or an automatic waiver condition to be able to play automatically. If the coaches can leave, the players should be able to leave, is what I'm saying. If the coach, if you have committed yourself to a coach and a coaching staff, then you should be able to leave.
I mean, there should be guidelines, not like, well, I got the lawyer that got this guy to get the waiver, so let me get the best lawyer, and it seems like. But anyway, and I agree with you. I think JT Daniels actually, I do wonder if back in Georgia, if Kirby Smart's like, I'm going to have a quarterback controversy. Everyone's going to say I did the wrong thing when he plays JT Daniels. But Daniels will probably win the job. I agree. He was much better, highly recruited type guy than Newman.
Yes.
I think. And you're right, because Newman
trust me, JT Daniels, he had the playbooks. As soon as he transferred, he got a playbook. And he's had almost as much time as Newman. Particularly if the season's kind of where it starts a little late. I mean, you guys are going to have even more. And I have a feeling Daniels very well may be the starter by the time they play for him. And then everyone will say when they somehow lose that Kirby Smart's a terrible coach and they'll win the rest of the game, but we won't know that. One other thing is, Mike Stoops was, of course, the clown joke the last few years at OU. But I want to ask you, why does Saban bring him on as an analyst if everyone says he doesn't know anything? Now, my theory is it's only because if they play Oklahoma, he'll know how to coach against Oklahoma. But I don't know. Why would the greatest defensive mind bring in a guy that everyone says is good? That's my theory. Is he knows OU might be, and he would have the inside. I don't know. What do you think?
I haven't really given that any thought at all, but that Alabama coaching staff must be about 37 deep at this point. They seem to bring on more analysts and special assignment guys and consultants than anybody. It's just crazy. But so if Nick Saban, maybe to your point, maybe there's something about Lincoln Riley's offense and his ability to develop quarterbacks and tutor them that scares Nick Saban a little bit. And he's obviously had his issues with Oklahoma. Well, I shouldn't say he's had his issues with Oklahoma. They obviously whipped him the last time, but they lost to him in 13. And
yeah. I know in Saban he's so precise that he thought that's one way to have one little advantage when most people are making fun of the guy. He sees a way that would actually help him. I mean, Saban is that precise. I bet that's why he did it. And the last, and so do you think that I think all the conferences are going to go to conference only. Do you agree?
it looks like it. That would be my guess. I wouldn't be shocked either way if the SEC and the ACC, for example, got together, but I think it would be difficult for the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 to get together and work something out. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a conference-only deal across the board.
I do think that they got to make the playoff at least 8 teams. I don't know how in the world you wouldn't do it without 8 teams. And I think one reason the conferences, he talks about how, why can't we do Iowa State, Iowa? But you couldn't just do the real close, less profile games to me and not do the big Michigan, Washington, or the big Ohio State. Because, and I understand because of the control, but also the appearance of, Iowa State there, but frankly, not that they would lose, but Ohio State going out to Oregon, they don't really have anything to gain because they're going to be 1 or 2 ranked. Only thing they have is to lose. Now, Oregon would have everything to gain if they won that game. Same with Washington. They'd probably be a lot lower than Michigan. And I don't think the conferences would want to look like, we're making sure our top dogs don't play with the smaller dogs. I don't know. Maybe nothing to do with it, but I don't think they could do that because that would not. I mean, that's frank. Ohio State, they just win all their games this year, whether it's 7, 5, or 10, they'll be in the playoff. A team like Oregon, because they're not going to get as many good chances, they're going to need a big game like that unless they expand it to 8, which I think is the only way it's fair. So
I agree with you in that that's the perception of where the leagues stand right now, that the SEC is the best. They're going to be given preferential treatment. The Big Ten's second. There's going to be slight preferential treatment and on down the line. So, but if you think about it logically and approach it fairly, if there are absolutely no non-conference games, then, and we forget about what happened in 2019 and 18 and 17 and actually evaluate the football season based on what's happening on the field, you have to rate all the conferences exactly the same because they're not playing any games against each other to rate them. So the approach of the College Football Playoff Committee, in my eyes, has to be that they take the 4 conference champions with the best records, and if there's a tie, let's say there's 3 undefeated teams, and then there's the other 2 conferences are won by 1-loss teams. So there's 3 undefeated teams and there's 2 1-loss teams that they have to just look at those 2 teams. Let's say it's Oregon and it's Ohio State. That they have to look at those 2 teams and not say, well, Ohio State was supposed to be better and Ohio State was that good last year and all the other things that's going to run through their minds. I get it. But what they have to do that's fair is look at those 2 teams and say who was more dominant against their schedule, who had the worst loss, who had the better wins, and who was more dominant against their schedule. And that's the team we're going to take.
Well, I just I've always wanted to have 8 teams anyway. So
oh, I do too.
I'm hoping that this
I've been preaching that for years.
They should switch and bring all 5 conference champions and 3 at large. To me, that needs to be done anyway. So, here's my last one. I'll let you go. Will Brent Venables ever be a head coach, or is he okay with just being the second guy of the major program? He was really good at OU. Really good question. Will he ever be a head coach?
I don't know how old Brent Venables is.
I think he's
in his mid to late 50s.
Kansas State in the early 90s, so he may be early around 50. I think he's around 50, early 50.
I've got to think that his stock has risen as high as it's going to rise, and he's had all sorts of opportunities that he must not want to be a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's just IC number 2, and he doesn't like to deal with all the head coach booster stuff and all of that. I mean, maybe he makes $3 million. I mean, that's a lot of money. So.
Yeah, if you just want to coach football, if you just want to coach football, then you want to be a position coach. But if you want to coach football and you also want to have some control and authority and coordinate, then of course you want to be an offensive or a defensive coordinator, but you're still all about football. But then you also have, leadership, and you got a structure, and you've got some organizational authority. So that's kind of the best of both worlds in regards to if you want to be a leader and you want to have some power, but you also just want to coach football and you don't want to deal with all that stuff, then be a coordinator. That's what he is.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, man. Appreciate it. You have a good one, man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. It's been a good show. Making my way through the live chat. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution I just posted to the screen from Joseph Medeiros. Joseph, thank you so much for your recent contribution. Speaking of which, where's that? I went through the last roughly month. So if I missed you in any way, I apologize, but I post 99% of the super chats to the screen and certainly acknowledge the great contribution. But the super chats have come in recent days from Judge Juno, Yella265, J Love T, Bradley Owee, New King God, Mike Williams. Thank you so much for multiple super chat contributions. Byrick, Joseph Medeiros, who just contributed again. Thank you so much, Joseph. Chris Duncan, BGPO Football Funk, our guy DeAndre. Bergie, thank you so much for your super chat contribution, sir. Wayne Tillman, Funky Fudge, Redbeard, of course, on our Florida State live shows. Cubs fan, we'll see you Thursday night as well. Jake, thank you. NBA fan, Muhammad Hussein. We got Chugmo Beer, Pigskin Pete. Of course, you can catch him on his YouTube channel as well. Brian Korth, Lamar Stevens, thank you so much for the super chat contributions and all these people listening right now. Michael Love, many times, who typically joins us on our Ohio State and Miami live streams. Michael, thank you so much for your contributions. Carlos Wilkerson, William Callum, and those are just some of the more recent ones. You can contribute to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, by going to PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. And you just search Mark Rogers TV, and there you go. So thank you. If that's not viable for you, then please like the videos. And also, most of you, I would think, are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and who knows what else is out there. So if you come across a video that you really like or one of these call-in shows, tweet it out there, because there are people that you contact and people that you're in communication with on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram that have no idea who I am. So you're my connection. You're my PR. We have completely built this. So most people that have YouTube channels do it the smart way, and they Facebook advertise and they go on different platforms. And this was completely organic. Now here recently, I was looking into some Facebook advertising, but that is not possible at this point. But that could really help us dive into a different audience and bring in other people that otherwise would not be connected here on YouTube. We also have an audio podcast that basically, for you people, I've got to admit, I'm not going to waste your time. Don't go over there, because you're just going to hear things that you can hear right here. So there's no reason for you to catch me on audio unless you just want to listen. But the only reason I'm doing that is obviously it's good business. And what I'm trying to do is push people over here. So what you can do, if you really want to help out, go to your favorite audio platform. So that's Stitcher, it's Spotify, it's Apple Music, whatever they call it these days. Yes, Apple Music, I think. Which it used to be iTunes. I think it's Apple Music now. Google Play, again, Spotify, Stitcher. What's the other one? iHeart Radio. Go over there, search Mark Rogers TV, and give me a good rating, good review, thumbs up, whatever they've got available there. That would help out tremendously as well. Okay, folks, so this is what I'm looking at. Somebody had asked earlier about Scott Frost, so I did not want to ignore that question because they were very nice in complimenting the show and asking about Scott Frost. Scott Frost is, I think this holds true across the board. Because of the craziness of this season, there's going to be a lot more leniency in evaluating head coaches after this year. Number one. I believe that to be true, that there's going to be more forgiveness, more understanding of a difficult situation. Also, for first-year head coaches, there's going to be a lot of leeway. For a Mike Norvell at Florida State, for a Mel Tucker at Michigan State, for Carl Durrell at Colorado, on down the line. A lot of leeway given to say, hey, you're not just a first-year head coach, but you had all this thrown at you, no spring practice, no contact with the players in person. Go 2-8 in a 10-game season, and we're not going to like it, but we'll put up with it because it was your first shot at this, and all hell broke loose. Scott Frost's situation, though, at Nebraska is that the first 6 games were a debacle, 0-6. Then they played tremendous football, like top 25 football, the final 6 games of 2018. I thought they would be better last year. I think some of us jumped way too quick into Nebraska's going to contend for the Big Ten Western Division, and actually the media voted them as the favorite to win the division. And of course, they fell flat on their face, and the offense with all those weapons. So Scott Frost is not in jeopardy of losing his job. He's still the guy that turned around UCF. He's still a favored son. He's still the Jim Harbaugh of Nebraska. He's still a guy that has done well elsewhere and was so coveted to come back and turn around the program that he's going to be given every chance. So no worries for Scott Frost, certainly in 2020 or in 2021. Now 22, let's say he goes 5-7 again in 2021. Okay, well, 2022, hot seat time. Let's say he goes 5-5 this year. They're going to play 10 conference games. he goes 4-6 or 5-5, and it's inconsequential. There might be limited bowl games or not bowl games, and so it really doesn't matter if you don't make the playoff or win a conference championship. And he goes 5-5 or 4-6 against what is right now the way it sets up the old schedule. And of course, this is going to be revised in the Big Ten. Nebraska's last 6 or 7 games are brutal. So what we've got coming your way this week, we've got Alabama roster breakdown, Miami roster breakdown, USC. Oh my goodness, who else? We've got some Clemson coverage coming up later this week, ACC, Virginia Tech, and of course our Florida State, Ohio State, and Miami live streams as well.
Oh, sorry.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael Hope. Sorry for calling. I didn't know if you were still taking calls or not. Sorry about that.
I am. No, never need to apologize, Michael. Thank you so much for calling.
Anyway, one thing I was trying to, I forgot about it, and I'm surprised you did a show tonight. I didn't know you could do one. Anyway, with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 just going conference only games, which of the next 3 DD going conference only? ACC, Big 12, or the SEC? My money's saying it could be the SEC.
That would be the conference to go conference only?
Yeah.
Okay, my thought would be the Big 12 would be that. Because if you think about it, the ACC and the SEC already have a number of games in which they play each other. Those 2 conferences play more non-conference games against each other by far than all the other conferences. So they already have those games scheduled and a working relationship between Louisville and Kentucky, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida, Florida State, South Carolina, Clemson. This year, North Carolina is scheduled to play Auburn and a few other games. So I could see those 2 conferences teaming up, and then the Big 12's left out, and then they go to non-conference or no non-conference games. So if there's only one other conference, yes, that would be my thought.
Go ahead, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
But I do think that we're headed toward no non-conference games. That's my guess.
My flip thing is if the ACC and the SEC is both saying, hey, no, we're going to stick with our schedule this year, what do you think the rest of the other 3 conferences and everybody else in the group is going to say about it? And you think they're going to go revert back or still stay with it?
No. Nobody's going back. Nobody's going backwards. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 are not going to say, we reconsidered and we're going to schedule these games. No. They're not going backwards. No.
But I get that and stuff like that, but if they stay with your 12-game schedule and the other conferences play 10, how's that going to balance out stuff, especially with the non-Power 5s too?
Nothing's balanced now, Michael. Look at your standard football season. If everything's normal, the SEC, the ACC play 8-game seasons in conference. The Big 12, the Pac-12, and the Big 10 all play 9-game seasons.
Yep.
The Big 10 and the ACC and the SEC have 14 teams. The Big 12 has 12 teams or 10 teams, and the Pac-12 has 12 teams. So some of them play 3 conference games and others play 4. They're all evaluated differently toward a college football playoff. So the structure's screwed up anyway. We have some teams that play no non-conference Power 5 teams at times. We have some that play 2 and 3 Power 5 non-conference games. So there's no structure anyway between the 5 conferences. So I don't think this is much different.
So you don't think a conference is going to play 10 games compared to them playing 12 won't make a difference when it comes to making it for the college football playoff? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Okay.
I didn't know if there's a way.
Okay, give me a scenario, Michael. Tell me what the rules are, and I'll tell you what I think the committee is going to be, how they're going to be judging these teams.
No, I'm just asking general because I don't know if they're going to put more weight on the 12 games for them or just the 10 games. How they're going to try to balance it out is what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
If there are conferences that play difficult and non-conference games, they should be given preference by the committee over conferences that only play in-conference games. Because as you've heard me say a million times on here, the only way that we can evaluate these conferences are based on the non-conference games, because otherwise they just go play in their own silos, and there's no way to evaluate these conferences against each other.
So do you think that, like, I was looking at Alabama's schedule, they still got the non-conference, like Georgia State, Kent State, and a couple of others. Do you think it's going to eventually fall to where all of, like, the great cities, even Wayne, how can I say this, Wayne, thinking hard about it, are they going to, most likely between those two, which one do you think will stay with the full schedule between the ACC and the NCC? Be that well, I mean, we already know that Alabama's going to lose a game with the NCC, so that's going to be an 11-game schedule. So do you know if they're going to try to keep the other non-conference, or?
What we know is that the SEC met today. They had a similar meeting that all the other conferences are having the same discussions. They're talking about, believe me, they're talking about player safety, and they're talking about money, and they're talking about logistics. So they're talking about, yes, keeping these players safe. How much money are we going to lose if we cancel games? And number 3, what are we going to do with the schedule? If we do change schedules, are we going to completely rip the thing to shreds like the Big Ten is doing? Or are we going to just try to make minor adjustments? So the SEC met today, and they basically said, we're going to be announcing our decision in the next, I forget what they said, 2 weeks or something.
Okay, I was trying to think you should I say, because I had some other things I didn't consider, but I know I figured the end of the month would be the absolute top attention thing, I guess. That's what I was referring to. All right, Mark, thanks for taking my call. Have a great night.
You too, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
There we go. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Jimmy from Macon, Georgia.
Jimmy, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I appreciate you calling.
Good.
What's on your mind?
I'm a first-time caller, and I've been listening for about, 3 or 4 months. Enjoy your show.
I appreciate that. People like you keep me going.
I have a quick comment. I've been listening to other podcasts and other media outlets that have been talking about how much money the teams are going to lose because of less games that they're playing for maybe the TV rights contracts. But my thought on that is there's going to be millions and millions more people watching every game than there is last season or the season before that, because so many people are home. And I think that my prediction is this season, if we have one, will be the most viewed of all the seasons so far.
So you make a good point. Keep going. If you have anything else.
No, that was it. I was just thinking that everyone's saying the sky is falling because we're not going to receive all that money from TV contracts, but I think the viewership's going to be there. Therefore, the money will be there.
Okay, here's my thought. So it's an interesting point that you bring up, and I've certainly had the same thought run through my mind. So I don't know if you know my background. I'm a TV guy. I've been in the TV industry for almost 30 years. So I deal with this stuff every day. And again, your theory makes total sense in a number of ways for the obvious reasons. Yes. Instead of a Saturday afternoon in which stadiums are packed across the nation with anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 people. And if we're talking about the major conferences, anywhere from 45,000 to 100,000 people. Those people are most likely going to be sitting at home, and they don't have the game day experience to where they're just going to one game and sitting there for 3 hours, and before they're tailgating and they're going out afterwards for a nightcap. No, they're sitting watching college football 3-4 games. They're watching even more games than just the one game that they're going to watch in person. That's for the college football fan. But we also have to understand that there are a lot of people that go to college football games that are truly not college football fans. They go to school there. They're just going to go to the North Carolina Duke game because, hey, there's nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon, and they'll go to they do things. They like to be active, and they go places. I think you might be a little bit surprised how many people fall into that category. Either they have some connection to the school, and so they just show up for the game, but they don't really care to sit home and watch games on TV, or they just, want something to do and they go to a game. So there are those people. So don't think that everybody who's packing out 105,000 at Penn State will then use that college football Saturday and sit on their couch from noon to midnight watching football like you and I do. But certainly there's a lot of those people. Yes, certainly we're talking about packed stadiums across the nation, and those people will be sitting at home because they can't go to games. Yes. Record ratings. I think the other factor in that is that we saw with the NFL draft in particular, that there was a curiosity among the sports fan. So let's say we've got NFL fans who just watch NFL games, but let's say they're staying in more than they usually do because of COVID, and the colder it gets outside, the more they're going to stay inside, and they just watch the NFL in a normal football season. They don't watch college football, but they might be intrigued to watch. What's this going to look like? No fans. It's going to be interesting to see. Plus, I'm sitting at home instead of going to the mall or going out with my friends. I'm sitting at home on a Saturday. So yeah, you just have, it is a odd situation, and there are going to be viewing trends that are slightly tweaked or broken or changed. You're right. And most of that should result in a higher viewership. Oh, I think you're fading off on me.
Yep, I'm here.
There you are.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I got you.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so my prediction is it's going to be record viewing. Yeah, so my prediction is it's going to be
we're losing you again. When you say record viewing, when you say record viewing, understand that most television records, most ratings records, viewing records were set years ago because people had less to do and there were less options. There wasn't an internet. There weren't a zillion channels, and there wasn't Netflix. That's why when Elvis Presley was on the Ed Sullivan Show, 92% of the country was watching him because they only had so many options. Now, I'm going all the way back to the 1950s, but still that holds true even in the 1980s when I believe that the highest rated game in the history of college football is still the Miami Penn State Fiesta Bowl game from 1986.
Yeah, I think it'll be higher than maybe a few previous years. Maybe not the highest rated, but it should be high.
Yeah, your theory makes total sense. The same thing has crossed my mind, certainly. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. I appreciate your show, man.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. You have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
I think we're going to wrap things up. We could keep talking, and I've got plenty to talk about Do we squeeze in one more call? Quick one. This is going to be quick. Here we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Nate. Great over late. Hey, Nate Kingston.
Oh, Nate. So you're still great, and you're still never late?
Well, maybe the first time.
Okay. You always catch me when I'm late. I notice your comments that you're one of the many that is always calling me to the carpet, getting on me for being late.
No, I know. I was trying to help you get on time. That's
I do need somebody to help me with that.
Yeah.
I need some kind of an assistant.
I was going to say, sorry if I was being rude with that comments, but I don't know. But anyway, like the title of the what's it called? Title of the video, he said, how the season's going to be.
Yes.
That's all right. My prediction, my prediction is probably just conference games. I really want a non-conference games, but to be fair, I know a lot of fans are. Well, I mean, not a lot, but some fans are kind of disappointed. Like Big Ten fans are really disappointed with the. I don't know if I can say disappointed, but are they like if just conference games? I mean, I am like I just think it's just gonna be like 8 games or 10 games and no playoffs. That's my prediction. But
you think that the playoff is going to be canceled?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's just like I think I really want a playoff too. I just think it won't happen. Don't get me wrong, I do really want a playoff, but I mean, if you're thinking about it, if we have just conference games and we have maybe 10 games total, and we who's like say Penn. I don't know if Penn State is the same conference as Ohio State, but
yes.
Okay, they are okay. Minnesota and Ohio State for conference championship, and if I think and say that Big Ten championship is just the championship for the Big Ten. Whoever wins that is the champion of their conference. I mean, that's normal for the conference, but I think it's just the Big Ten conference games or Pac-12. I really don't know about SEC yet, but what's your thoughts about that? I don't really know for sure.
So my thoughts is that we all love college football, so we don't want games canceled. And I've got to think that everybody that's watching, everybody that loves college football, did not like when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 announced that games would be canceled. But people that are concerned about player health and safety, depending on what your, I don't want to say political, just what your views are on what's going on out there and the severity of the situation, some people understand why the games were canceled, but none of us wanted the games to be canceled. Of course, that's why we're here doing this, is because we love college football. I don't know if that answers your question, but we didn't want games canceled. So
I mean, I didn't want all the games canceled. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want all the games canceled, really. I just wanted like a normal football season. But Big Ten had to agree with the political, whatever it is. But I mean, I just want a really regular season, not a conference season. That's all I want, you know.
All right. So Nate, as I catch it that you're of course a Nebraska fan, you're a Michigan fan, and you have a lot to say at times about Ohio State. So you were questioning whether Penn State is in the same conference as Ohio State, right? That was one of the questions?
I meant the division.
In the same division. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to give you a little homework assignment, Nate, that to learn all the teams in the Big Ten.
I know Illinois. I know Indiana.
Well, we don't need to hear them. Just.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There we go. All right, Nate. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. We're going to wrap it up right here. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like the videos. If you missed anything tonight, let's say you joined us halfway through. Obviously, you wait for the video to post, and then you jump back on here and you check out what you missed. We've got an exclusive live stream coming up on Thursday night. If you're interested in talking college football directly with me, as we've had about 15 people sign up, please just leave your interest in the comment section. Just basically say, hey, I'm interested. I'm going to have to get in touch with you via email to send you a link that you can come on and take part in our exclusive live stream. Consider donating and contributing after talking for 98 minutes, contributing to the channel, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. I would appreciate it in so many ways. Add up the the nickel per day. You see these mini donations, and there's certainly charitable contributions that I make, and they just automatically come out of my bank account every month. And they always do the breakdown of it 17 cents a day or whatever it is. So just think about that. Boom. 17 cents a day would be like $5 a month, something like that. All right. You guys are the best. I love the audience. I love the people that have been with me here forever. And then some of you have jumped on in the last few months. And then others of you I'm seeing for the first time. I see a Connor Johnson in here, and I see a number of people that I've not seen before. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you value the content and the conversation that we have here, and you will come on back. Next live stream is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Florida State. See you then.